welcome to the Zupic Zone. This is the first ever podcast episode, so I appreciate you guys joining.
The
Pleasure
Zupic
to
Zone.
have.
That's fire. I like it.
Appreciate it. Pleasure to have our guest Austin Pritchard here. A lot I have to say about Austin. He's came into my life recently and has really transformed the sales aspect of my life, which is partly what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be ultimately about the how to level up, in sales, mindset, and in fitness. And so I'm your host, Patrick Zupic, and I'm here to guide you on a journey of transformation and wealth. So, Austin,
Love
please
it.
introduce yourself. I've known
Yeah.
you for a few months. Tell us, a little bit about your story and kind of where you grew up and what you're doing now.
Cool. Yeah. So I grew up in Texas, Temple, Texas. So just north of Austin, small town. Um, just a country boy trying to make it, I guess.
Cool, awesome. Did you do you have any hobbies growing up, or I know
Yeah,
you're a big outdoors guy, right?
big in the outdoors, sports, track, football.
Cool.
Loved football. But yeah, I guess my true passion would be outdoors, hunting, fishing.
Cool.
Love to fish. I've been on some crazy fishing trips, so
Cool.
it's probably the true passion.
Awesome. Big outdoors guy as well. You have a ranch right now? Is
Yeah.
that true? Did you sold your ranch?
No,
You
no,
still-
no. We,
still
we
got
didn't
it?
sell it. We're
Cool.
going to keep that forever.
Nice.
Yeah, we just bought, me and my wife closed on a 300 acres this last year.
Nice.
Mm.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, let's dive into the journey of sales. So you started out, tell us kind of your background in sales, how you got started in that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I started 7 years ago, right after my mission. I think it's important. We don't just highlight some of the wins I've had, but also some of the failures as well.
Right.
Somebody, one of your buddies I saw on Instagram the other day said, I think you reshared it, how he looks at his failures as not failures, but like a part of his success, right? He learns from each one, and that really hit home. So I think it's important we talk about that a little bit. So
Sure.
right after my mission, I started working for an alarm company, and I was there for like 3 weeks. The only sale I made was to my mom. She's a G for that. Appreciate it. It was miserable. Like I was like, man, this is not for me. Sales is not my thing. So I actually left sales for 2 years. I went and did some odds and ends, really just trying to figure out my path. Did concrete, worked in some box stores and management type thing, and I just always hated that I was always the hardest worker in the room, but was getting paid the same as like these scrubs who would literally go out back and smoke weed and whatnot. And I'm like, this is terrible. So eventually I was living up here in Utah, was just switching jobs again. I was doing concrete, and I switched over to this bank, living out the back of my truck, hopping between friends' couches and whatnot. And yeah, literally probably the lowest point of my life. And I just kept seeing on my cousin's stories, like him going all over the world with sales. Like, you know how we all do
Right.
these cool trips now. But he would be in Thailand and Philippines and all these cool places. I'm like, man, I just want to travel and make money. So I hit him up about it. I went and did pest control that year and had a great experience. So
Cool. Awesome. So how many years have you done door-to-door pest control sales for?
I've done it now. This will be year 5.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. How has sales impacted your life? I mean, doing it for 5 years, obviously a little bit, I know you're known for having your big summer, doing $1 million in revenue, which is, unheard of. I mean, most companies don't do that, let alone people. So, how has sales really impacted your life?
Yeah, it's honestly completely changed the whole direction of my life. Like any of the successes has been a byproduct of sales, right?
Right.
So completely changed it. Like I've accomplished at the time 5 years ago, looking back, like all my life dreams within 5 years.
Right.
Now I have more, bigger life dreams and think bigger than I ever did before. But it was just cool to see how how quickly um, you can acquire your dream life through sales and through the capital and whatnot.
Cool. So it's made you think bigger overall, where it's
Absolutely.
like I could accomplish, in 5 years what I should be able to do
Yeah,
in
like
longer. So
I dreamed of being able to make half, less than half of what I do now consistently, and it's just, it's completely shaped and formed my whole life. So
sweet, awesome. As far as your impact on other people with leadership, you've maintained an incredible amount of consistency when it comes to being a top performer, being a top leader with all the companies you've been at. How have you been able to maintain the consistency over the years?
I think in this industry we're blessed, that we're also cursed with good leaders and bad leaders, or selfish and unselfish. And so something I've always tried to do and pride myself on is, one, like, just be a positive leader, right? Believe in everybody. Like, you never know who's going to be the next person to go out and break records and do cool stuff in the industry. So it's like, don't ever limit somebody's success. I've heard a lot of leaders who will like tell their guys, hey, you're this level of a rep, like just go hit this metric and you're going to be perfectly fine. And it's like, I don't want to ever limit any of my guys' potential by telling them what they can do, because they look up to us as leaders as not just like a coach, but somebody who believes in them and it's going to help them hit their goals. And so
Right.
I think that's number one thing, is just help guys and always believe that they can be just as successful, if not more. Like, my true goal is to help everybody who works with me be more successful than I've been able to be in the last 5 years. So I would say that's number one. And then as far as like the personal sales go, like, yeah, I've had a great journey. I've had some ups, I've had some downs, and just taking it with the punches. Like, you know, you'll get punched in the mouth, just like anything. It's you got to get back up.
Right.
And there's been some times where I stayed down longer than I wish I would have, but it was important to learn from that and go through it and feel that emotion and whatnot. So I think it's always just don't give up, right? Like, there was even times where I've thought of giving up within the last 5 years.
Right.
I'm just glad I haven't.
Cool. Awesome. So it sounds like, taking the punches as they go and learning from each mistake is ultimately, what shaped you into who you are now.
Right.
Cool. Awesome. That's phenomenal. Let's dive into the sales aspect of things. How have you been able to perform at a high level year in, year out?
Yeah, I think it's just always progressing. I've been seeing this thing on Instagram lately where it's like, what's your word of the year, right? Have you been seeing those?
Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But I think what I've focused on this last year and even going into this year, I guess that would be my quote word of the year again, would be progression, right? Like,
I like that.
you never know what you're actually capable of, right?
Mhm.
Like, God's given us all these talents and gifts and skills and whatnot. And even if he hasn't, you can work on those things. But it's like, how can I progress today to become a better person tomorrow and in this moment even? So one thing I've always focused on is keep training. I think a lot of guys cap themselves when they get to a certain skill level, and
Right.
they're making 100, 200, maybe even 300,000 a year, and they just get comfortable with it. Something I still do consistently is train, like every single day. In the off season, I'm still training. When I'm training all my reps and everybody I'm coaching on the side, it's I still train outside of that. And during the summer, that's a big part, because that's when
Mhm.
you'll really know what you need to work on. The whole off season, it's kind of like 2-a-days
Right.
back in football,
Right.
right? You're grinding and whatnot, and then you really get to critique yourself come game time. So I guess the season is my game time, and there will be times on the doors where, two or three guys or two or three customers throughout the day where I felt like I should have closed them and I didn't. And so I just keep a rolling note page on my phone where it's like, hey, today I wasn't able to close in this objection. And then I'll work on that. I'll take those things at night and I'll have 3 or 4 or 5 things I can work on for 30 minutes to an hour. and just whatever I can do to slowly push the needle even more.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, sounds like you're just a student of the game, and that's something I really admire about you. Is, you've been doing this for 5 years, and most people in this industry, they're like, I don't have to train.
Right.
I don't have to progress and get better and continue to level up. And so, I think that goes. I think that's a great trait to have, is always being willing to work and just be a student of the game.
I think any top producer they probably do a similar thing, right?
Right.
And I studied a lot of those guys when I first started, and I still study them. Like, I'll still reach out to my mentors within the industry and, figure out what they're doing. How are they doing a little bit better? And it all applies. Like, find your mentors. It doesn't have to be in pest control if you do pest control. The grind is the grind, right? And I would say most of the high producers do something like that, or they do some type of reflecting where they figure out where they can be better. But yeah, I find it all the time. These guys who are making, it doesn't even matter what they're making, but there's a threshold like between 150, 200K a year. And it's just like they stop progressing. They stop working that muscle, if you will. So I don't know. I like to relate it to Kobe Bryant,
Right.
He probably took over 1,000 shots a day until the day he died.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like, he could go in, even when he was retired, he could go in and shoot better than anybody. Now, had he went 3 years without shooting, would he be able to go in and shoot like that against somebody? No.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm sure Michael Jordan could still shoot better than most players in the NBA.
Right.
Because now he has all the years after where he's still taking shots.
Right. 100%. Always just training it.
Yeah.
Cool. And so as far as that was kind of my next thing I wanted to chat about was differentiating, right? So what do you think is the separator from a guy that, makes 50K a year in sales to a guy that makes multiple six figures a year every year?
I think it starts with just belief in yourself and realizing, it goes back to God. Like, God doesn't make any of us with less potential. We all have the potential to be great. So one, belief in yourself, but then there's got to be action with that belief, right? You can't just believe it and hope to achieve that lifestyle.
Sure.
You got to go and work for it. One of the things I've really tried to focus the last couple of years behind is live like the type of guy that deserves that amount of success. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, if I'm living my life in accordance to making $500,000, $600,000 a year, the money becomes a byproduct because that's how you live. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, you could look at like a lawyer or a doctor, for instance. If they're living like a really crappy life, they're probably not going to get a really good job and get a good salary, right? Or they might, and the money that brings them to it's a dead end. Right. Doesn't matter how much money you make if you're not living a fulfilled life and like a good, solid lifestyle. A lot of people will just chase it, and money's not going to bring the happiness.
Right. I love that. Basically what you're saying is align your income to the lifestyle you want. And then, once you're living that lifestyle, it's like the rest will follow.
Correct.
Much.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah. The money becomes the byproduct of how you live.
Yeah.
So if you're living a $1 million lifestyle or whatnot, then that's your life will or the money will come with it, with the lifestyle. That doesn't mean you need to go out and, I'm not saying go buy a nice car or something before you're making $1 million, but like, live a good life, like always progress, read books, like be a good husband, be a good father, do all those things to where that just becomes a byproduct.
Right. So you talk about self-belief and you say that that's one of the biggest things that will help someone get to the next level. How do you build self-belief?
So one, I think it comes with just the work. Like, if you're not putting in an honest, true day and you get done at the end of the day and you didn't give it your all, there's part of you who kind of regrets that.
Right. Like a little bit of guilt.
There's guilt behind it. And I just never want to feel that guilt. And that helps with your self-belief, because if you're working your hardest, again, the success becomes a byproduct of your work ethic.
Right.
So one, that helps your belief because you'll always be selling. The other thing is doing things like vision boards. I'm huge on that.
Right.
Vision boards, affirmations, telling yourself like you're a good person. God believes in you. Your wife believes in you. Your family believes in you. There's a lot of people who believe in you. I believe in me. That's the biggest one. The most important one is like just having that confidence. So I would say what really changed my life was vision boarding, not just putting it on a board and looking at it every day, but like looking at those things, breaking it down, like researching those things on my vision board, starting to believe like I have that life even though I haven't achieved it yet. Like I will have that life. All I have to do is align my work ethic and align the lifestyle and the way I live, and I will achieve all those things.
Awesome. Yeah. What are some, if you don't mind, if you don't, you want to share what some of your goals are as far as like, I guess on your vision board, what do you put
For this year or what I've done in the past?
For this upcoming year?
I'm actually still working on it for this year. So I don't have it completely dialed in. But yeah, one of my biggest whys this year is, and you know this, I've started a nonprofit where we're going to go down to South America or like one of the Polynesian islands, and we're going to build houses and schools for people. And like the group I've been working with, I've helped raise like over $100,000.
Wow.
And so we're going to be able to take that and bless families with it. So that's really one of my biggest motivators, because now, like, I think what's helped me achieve most of what I have is I always attach my goal to like helping somebody else, whether that's a rep or like family in need or whatever it is. So like this year I've committed 10% of what I make goes into my nonprofit. And so now it's like on the hard days when it's hot or when it's raining, there's a hurricane, if I'm sick, whatever it is, it's like, dude, you have to go be successful today, because you literally could go and build half a house with what you make today.
Right.
In South America where it doesn't cost a whole lot. But yeah, that just drives me, like, to be able to go and bless people with doing this job.
Awesome. So I love that. I mean, connecting your goal with something bigger than yourself.
I like to say tying it to your goal. Like it's a non-negotiable, right? I have to go be successful or these people do not get a house.
Wow. So does that put a little bit of pressure on you, or is it more so for like motivation?
I think if anything, it's a good pressure where it's like, how many people can I bless? I don't know. I have to go be successful today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no number on it. It's like 10% of what? 10% of whatever I make. So, if that's $1 million, cool. I'm taking $100,000 personally down and going to go build 10 houses or whatever it is.
100%. Yeah.
But it could be less. And so it drives me to go and be as successful as possible.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I love that. I think that's a great pro tip for anyone, not just in sales, but
I think in life in general.
Right.
I think if everybody lived like that, like, the world would be a way better place.
Right.
But you would be way more successful out of sales. And I started this years ago before I would do stuff like this before I even got into sales and started making money.
Right.
There was a week where I could barely afford food, but there's a lady with 3 kids and I'm like, shoot, here's $100,
Right.
And I think it all just, you're blessed for what you give back.
100%. Yeah. That's one thing I could tell with you is you're a giver. So that's good. As far as, so doing, I guess hitting a huge goal, like $1 million in revenue in the summertime, there had to have been some challenges that you faced.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, that's again unheard of. Like, there's only a handful of people that have only, serviced $1 million in revenue. So, what were some challenges that you had to encounter or that you had to get over in order to hit that goal?
Yeah, that was. I've learned a lot since then. That was my second year in pest control. Lots of highs, lots of lows, and before and after the summer, right? During the summer, it was just, I learned the most that summer than I really ever have about myself. Um, it was just like do or die. I just wanted to go see what my true potential was. Looking back, I think there's like you remember the hard times most during it.
Oh yeah.
You
For sure.
after it, you're like, hell yeah, I achieved it. Um, but I think during it, it would have been looking at the goal when I was so far away. When you look at the leaderboard and you're like, man, I have $700,000 to go. You're like, that's a long way to go. And just staying mentally sharp and just like, you know, taking the punches and giving punches.
Right.
Just trying to stay dialed.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a huge thing. As far as like I'm curious to know about I'm gonna transition here into mindset. And so obviously mindset plays a huge role in sales. And so you mentioned starting from zero every single day. What kind of a toll does that take on you, and how do you get past that where it's like, oh my God, I got here's this huge goal in front of me. I'm at zero right now.
Yeah.
How do you get to where it's like, okay, I got to hit my goal? How do you start? Where do you I guess what helps you achieve that?
Yeah, I focus like in every moment that I'm at zero. And so I think that's why I've been able to have really, really big days, especially that summer. Um, was just never counting. Like, again, it goes back to what I train my reps and train people. It's like, you can't put a limit on yourself. You don't know how big of a day today is going to be, right? So if I tell myself in the morning meeting, hey, I'm going to do 10 cells and write it on the wall, I hate those goal sheets. I think they're stupid because it's like you put that number on there and then that's what you tie yourself to. You're like, cool, all I got to do is 10 today, or all I got to do is 8 today, whatever it is. So I always just think like after a door, if it's 12:30, um, like after 12:30 today, I have 0 deals, you know,
Right.
and always just staying at that because that'll always push you. Everybody always works hardest for their first deal of the day, and so if it's 5 o'clock and I believe I'm at 0, I'm grinding just as hard as I was
Right.
at 9 o'clock that morning.
Cool. Yeah. So just staying level headed and making
Yeah,
sure
it
that you're
doesn't allow you to get high. It doesn't allow you to get too low. It's just like just in the zone where you're just cranking. It's like clockwork. You got to go get your next deal.
right.
Only thing on your mind is like who's getting next? Who am I getting next?
Cool. So how does mindset play a role in achieving sales success? I mean, I knew.
Everything is belief in sales. Everything, the mindset and belief. It's everything. Like you have to be a steel trap on and off the doors.
Right.
Like whatever people say, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If somebody gives you a objection, like, or they cuss you out at the door, whatever, shake it off. You got to go on to the next door.
Right. So you become an absolute master of just mastering the mental side of it.
Yeah, like be a steel trap. Like, don't give two shits what people say to you.
Right.
On and off the door, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's your goal, and it's like you're the one who's doing the work for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't care if somebody comes to me and and cusses me out or whatnot. Like it doesn't bother me at all because I'm like, dude, it's like if you're gonna be the one that holds me back from my goal, like I'm not gonna let that happen.
Right.
Like I don't care about you.
That's extremely powerful. I mean, to be able to, you know,
Yeah, and it's just like you're looking at it, and if you're gonna let somebody like hold you back from your dream lifestyle, and it's one person cussing you out a day, but at the end of the summer you're gonna make hundreds of thousands of dollars, dude. I hope 10 people cuss me out a day. Like I don't
right.
care.
Right. So what are some keys to staying even keeled? Like not getting too high on the highs, not getting too low on the lows. How do you stay in the middle? Because, doing this for a few years, I've led some teams, my past 2 years doing this. And I see a lot of guys after they get big days, they're on a high horse like this, right? And after a low day, they're just drained. They're almost like they're done. They're
Yeah,
defeated. How do you maintain that middle ground?
I think it all comes back to what you tell yourself, right? One, your affirmations, what you're saying. But two, going back to the cells, like when you leave a door, don't ride that high.
even after like making a sale.
Don't write it. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. That deal to me, even though it's like 5 minutes ago, that deal to me is the same as yesterday's deals. I don't care, you know?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, pat yourself on the back. You got a deal. Who cares?
On to the next, right?
Yeah, who cares? Is that deal what made your summer? The only deal I care about is my last deal of the summer.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. No,
It's like when I hit that, I'm like, sweet.
right.
I can breathe. Never breathe on the doors. Never breathe at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you sell $30,000 in revenue that day. You just have to go back to zero. And I learned this, and again, it's not like I've known this forever. Like, I was not the best salesman when I started at this. Even 5 years ago, like first year in pest, like I was an average guy, right? I've learned all this as I went, but you know, there would be my rookie year, I would sell 15 deals in a day, and then the next day I would sell 2. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I sold 15 deals yesterday,
Right.
right? And it's because I would ride that wave till the next day. You know, mentally we were thinking like there's some quota that we have to hit every week. It's like, oh, I need to sell 36,000 this week to pace for my goal, or I need to sell 25,000 this week to pace for my goal. So today I sold, 10,000. I'm over pace for the week. So yeah, tomorrow I don't have to sell as much.
Right.
And you let yourself breathe. You can't breathe.
Right.
It's just back to zero. So that's changed a lot. When I started doing that, I started having bigger days, pushing that needle way farther. Between my rookie year and the next year, I increased my PR by 12 deals. Rookie year it was 16, and then the next year my biggest day was 34.
Wow.
And then the day before I did 34, I did 28.
Right.
And so it's like, and that was really just the zero mindset. Like doesn't matter.
Right. That's what's super impressive is you were able to have a PR day and the next day PR, which
Yeah, the 28 day, dude, I PR'd, and the biggest day up to that point was, I think, 22 deals. So I was stoked. I was like, I just beat it by 6 deals, right? And then the very next line was, doesn't matter, I'm back at zero. Literally, if you look, like I came home that night and my sister was there, and she was like, yeah, 28's cool, you didn't hit 30. And I'm like, damn, she's right.
Wow, she humbled you a little bit.
She's
wow.
like, that's cool, but you should have got 2 more.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. And so I was like, you're right, I'm back at zero. And then the next day went and PR'd again by 6 deals.
Wow. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. So what advice would you give for anyone that's 100K level rep, 200, 300? What advice would you give them to make the next jump, make the next, get to the next level with achieving, a golden door, or even, $1 million in revenue?
I think you need to just forget about what you've done, right? Like, yeah, some things I've done in the past are cool, right? But it's like, don't live off that. Don't be a has-been. Continue to give value and help and to yourself as well. Like, don't be one of my biggest things right now is like, be a still am type of guy, not a has-been.
I love that.
Right? And
Yeah.
so with that, like positive and negative, if you're a 100K level rep, is that great as a rookie? Yeah, it's fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But get over that.
All right.
Right? Like, go be more than that. There's people out here in the industry who have done incredible things. Like, go and strive to do that. You don't know if you're the next best.
Right. So always keeping that positive, attitude as well.
Positive and always just in all aspects. Just never get complacent with where you're at. Always progress.
Cool. Awesome. Let's talk about, life outside of sales, outside of work. What does life look like outside for you? Do you believe in like having a balance between work and life, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I used to not. right? And it hurt a lot of relationships. Um, you know, it took my parents and siblings and everybody like just shooting me straight, be like, dude, you're no fun to be around.
Wow.
All you think about is work now.
Wow.
So again, like this is a new, like the progression mindset is within the last 6 months or so. But yeah, I try to come home and shut my phone off at a certain time every day, be present with my wife. Like when I'm home, I'm present with her. Um, I used to take phone calls until 11, 12 or later at night. And it's like, how can you truly give to the people you love,
Right.
if you're not being present? So I like to be present with them. And I try to do things that I enjoy to do. After the summer this last year, we spent like 2 months out at our ranch and we hunted and fished and
Cool.
rode four-wheelers, and so it was
That's
cool.
sweet. So what is it? What's the routine or day in the life of Austin Pritchard, like during the off season when you're not in sales? What does it look like for you?
It's not as intense as during the summer. I would say it's still pretty intense. I try to go to the gym every day and try to wake up at a decent time. It's hard a lot of times during the off season because you get home from work and I get home from the office and we'll go and hang out with friends and whatnot and stay out later than we probably should. But yeah, I'd say right now I go to the office every day and do my meetings and everything and trainings. Typically about 8 hours, and then come home and just hang out with my wife, watch movies, go do stuff.
Cool. So still putting in the work. So, there's no off season. There's
No, I
still a
think that's
grind.
one thing. I used to think this is just a summer gig, right?
Right. As we all do.
Right. And for the last 4 years, I've been in Texas, recruiting, and it was just hard. It was hard to be away from a system and culture of a company. I think this is the first year I've been ever fully bought into not just sales.
Right.
Like the whole sales as a whole. You know what I mean? Like being present in the office, that's huge.
Yeah.
Like I've recruited lights out recently just because I'm here and present, and I mean obviously this is door-to-door capital, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think it's exciting. It's the first year I've actually been in a spot where the off season isn't an off season. It's still grind season, and it's always just getting better and progressing, like even throughout the off season.
Cool. I love that. So progression. I really like that the word. That's gonna be your word for this year. I think that says a lot about your mindset, your character, and there's always wanting to get better. So I think that's
Yeah, I
phenomenal.
think honestly, there's no better word for life. 'Cause it's like
Yeah, it could be your word every year.
literally, it's probably gonna be my word for life is progression. Because honestly, at the end of the day, like whether you're religious or not, God or creator or whatever you want to call him, that's all he cares about. Is who do we become, right? So it's like just become a better person today and tomorrow and really forever,
Right. For sure. No, I think it's super important. As far as like fitness goes, I mean, this is like kind of like our last part where, always want to dive into the fitness. I mean, you're a pretty big guy yourself. You definitely seem like you could, hit a lot on the bench. What how has fitness played a role in your life as far as achieving success?
It's been huge. So I it's a lot for a couple years in door to door. It was kind of looked over, and all my energy went into the doors.
Right.
Right. So I think this goes back to the balance. Like you got to have some sort of balance, especially with your body. If you neglect your body, then it's bad. So like for instance, that big year, I literally lost 30 pounds during that summer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad. I came back and
Jeez.
I have a before picture, and I was filled out. My arms like fit tight in my sleeves. I was looking good. By the end of the year, my shirts all fit super loose. It was bad. And it took me a couple months to recover from that.
Really?
Yeah, I was very unhealthy at the end of that. So that's one thing I've really focused on. Um, I just hired a mentor. He's phenomenal. And yeah, that's one thing he coaches on. He's not just my personal trainer, he's a life coach as well. And it's not just progression in financial world, it's progression in financial, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, all those things, and that's what he
Mhm.
coaches on. So it's huge. So that's one thing I've incorporated more and more is the fitness side. Not where I want to be yet, but we're getting there.
Right. Yeah, it's progression, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any fitness goals this year as far as like what you want to achieve?
Um, I think I just want to be consistent with it. It's always been hard where, again, we go through these seasons during our year. It's just be consistent during every season and see how big we can get. I'll be honest. Like
Yeah.
last year, there was 6 months where I worked out for nonstop. Like every day I'd go to the gym for 2 to 3 hours during the
Wow.
off season because I didn't have anything else to do. Right. And yeah, it was the best I ever felt and looked about myself. And so trying to get back to that. And
Cool.
I think just consistency. I don't really have a true goal. Again, I think I'm looking differently at goals right now. It's more of like, why would I set that goal when I could go be better and bigger and do bigger things than that?
Right.
So,
Never capping yourself. That's something that I've noticed, it's like never putting, I mean, a lot of people have like limiting beliefs on what they could achieve, and you're someone that just continues to level up no matter,
I think
no matter what.
the goal is almost to have no goal. Not to
Yeah.
be goalless
Yeah, yeah,
or
no.
drivenless. Like you got to have some type of path, but the goal is like, dude, go see what your full potential is in every aspect.
Right. Because otherwise, if you set a goal, you
Yeah.
might cap yourself, right? You're
Yeah.
like,
People always ask, like, what's your goal this year for sales? I don't know. I'm going to go out every single day and grind my ass off and see where it lands. Like where the chips fall, they fall.
right,
I gave everything I can.
right,
And they're like, what if you end early from this mark? I don't care. That's my potential,
right,
right? That's what I did my best type of thing.
right.
Same thing in the physical, mentally as well, emotionally, spiritually. It's like, can I be a more religious person? Probably, right?
Right. Cool. Awesome. Well, let's land the plane here. Is there any final advice that you have for anyone looking to level up in all three of the aspects, sales, mindset, and fitness?
Just believe in yourself to take action. I think that's one of the biggest things. Believe in yourself to take massive action right now. You might not believe you can actually do it, but like fake it till you make it. The longer you fake it, you'll just start to believe it,
Cool.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like right now, if you don't know where to start, just start. If that's physical, okay, go
Get in
in,
the
see
gym.
what your take. Yeah, get in the gym.
Right.
Go see what you're capable of. If it's in sales and you're not in sales, or if you are in sales, like go do your best, and give yourself like if you're gonna do it this way, and not set a goal, because there is a time where goal setting is important, right? If you're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna go and do the very best I can today, you actually have to go and do your very best. Otherwise, you need to set a goal,
Right.
right? I think it works for me now because I'm more of a self-driven person. It's like just live my schedule, and I know I'll be successful with it. But I think it's important if you're going to take that advice from me is it can't be a scapegoat of, oh, I don't have a goal, so today I can take it easy because I don't even
Right.
have a goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you got to be intense with it. Your goal is to see what your potential is,
Right.
not to get out of a goal.
Right. Not sure if you agree with this at all, but I mean, for people that are setting these high goals and they're not, getting close. I mean, do you think that they lose a lot of credibility with themselves
Um,
as far as like, not achieving that and feeling almost guilty about it? Do you think that actually translates into?
I think there's a couple of things that go into that. It's like, did you work hard for it and you worked your very hardest. If you worked your very hardest and you landed short, who cares?
Right.
But typically when we set a goal, we know it's achievable, right? In our mind, again, there's a quote, I'm going to butcher it, but like God only gives you like a goal or a vision as big as you can believe and achieve, right? So if it's too big, like this year, if I was going to say, I'm going to go out and do $2 million personally in revenue, right? It's like, okay, dude, that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
But if it's like a true goal and your true potential and you fell, there's got to be something missing there, whether that's the skill, because maybe you worked your ass off and you didn't hit it. Okay, then it's probably your skill level. Like, don't give up on that goal. Go after it again. Really self-identify what is it that I need to work on this year to be able to hit that goal next year.
Right.
Now, if it's the other way around where it's like, yeah, I know I should have hit it and I didn't because I didn't work hard enough for it, then have a one-on-one with yourself and just be like, dude, I didn't give my all.
Right. Cool.
And I never want to be that guy.
Right.
I want to give it my all every day. And so I think that's important is find out what your true potential is.
And keep building on that.
And keep building on it. And you and I have done that exercise where we break down like your year to your month to your week to your day.
Right. Yeah.
And we multiply it by whatever variables we put in, whether that's working more hours or working longer months or whatever it may be. Like when we did it, at first you came to me and you told me your goal and you're like, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, let's break it down. Let's see what your true skill potential is right now.
Right.
And then we added in those other variables and you're like, holy crap.
I could see it right there.
You're like, there's no way I don't hit it. All I have to do is exactly what those steps are that you told me to do.
Right. Right. So reverse engineering the goal to be like, okay, this is what you have to do. This is what we've been doing. It's plug and play. So focus on the work. Keep putting in the hours and eventually you'll get there.
So that's the goal. But again, I don't want you to even focus on the goal, right? Or anybody. It's like focus on your potential. Because that's where you're at currently and your current skill set and the pace that you sell at doesn't mean that you can't get better.
Right.
So it's like, you know the minimum, but you don't know the max.
Right.
Nobody knows the max. I don't even truly believe I know what my max potential is.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's what's great about being in sales, right? There's no ceiling at all.
Correct.
So it's like you could just print your money. But well, that's awesome. Austin, I appreciate it. For anyone to follow you or if anyone has any questions, where could they reach you at? Yeah,
they can they can go into your DMs and get my number, or they can just follow me on Instagram. And I'm not super active on it, but I'll get back to you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Appreciate everyone joining and look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.
Thanks, dude.